Part 152. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Dalby in the World. Chapter 1511. Chapter 1511 The Coming of Death 2. Qian Yuman was anxious to death in the room. Yang Yanliu was taken away and she didn't know how she was doing. She felt tormented every minute and every second. When will Mr. Tang come? It should be coming soon. Qian Yuman was worried and pressed the distress signal again, several times in a row, which showed how urgent she was. Tang Yuj arrived very quickly. In fact, Qian Yuman and Yang Yanliu were taken away in less than 20 minutes, but for her now, it was very long. After receiving the news that Qian Yuman and the others were in trouble, Tang Yuj summoned many people and rushed over. These people were so cunning that they successfully avoided all the cameras by driving their way. If it weren't for the device on Qian Yuman, Tang Yuj and the others might not be able to find Qian Yuman in a short time. Fortunately, they didn't know that Qian Yuman had this thing on him, otherwise they might have been doomed this time. While waiting for a long time, footsteps sounded outside. Qian Yuman's eyes lit up. Could it be that Tang Yuj was here? Whether it was true or not, Qian Yuman shouted at the top of his lungs. "Husband, I'm here, come and save me." Qian Yuman's shout caused the pace of approaching the small black room to accelerate suddenly. The group of people outside turned out to be Tang Yuj. Based on the signal, they determined that Qian Yuman was inside. His face was covered with frost, and he kicked the door with his foot, breaking it with one kick. Qian Yuman luckily hid in time, otherwise he would have been kicked away too. Seeing Tang Yuj, Qian Yuman jumped over excitedly. Husband Qian Yuman rushed over with a roar. Tang Yuj finally breathed a sigh of relief when he saw Qian Yuman safe and sound in front of him, and held her gently in his arms. "Where's Lu'er?" Tang Xingai, who followed closely, looked around the small dark room and did not see Yang Yanliu. "Yes, hurry up. Lulu was taken away by them. I don't know where he is now. He has been taken away for more than 10 minutes. Something may have happened. Send someone to look for him quickly." Tang Xingai's face instantly turned pale. He immediately turned around and ran outside, calling for people to search the surrounding areas. Qian Yuman was still in Tang Yuj's arms, tears falling from her eyes. "Husband, I'm sorry, I failed to protect my sister-in-law and she was arrested." Qian Yuman was very sad, and Tang Yuj patted him and comforted him. "It's okay, my siblings will be fine." Seeing that Qian Yuman is safe and sound is more important than anything else. As for Yang Yanliu, that was Tang Xingai's business. He only needed to protect his beloved woman. "By the way, why did these people take away Yang Yanliu and leave you here alone, with no one around to help you?" Tang Yuj noticed the situation when he came here just now. They rescued Qian Yuman without fighting at all. They found the person and rescued him directly. If it was Wuji who organized that group of people, it stands to reason that they would not be able to rescue people so smoothly. And the person they wanted to target most should be Qian Yuman. Why did they take away Yang Yanliu, a weak woman? "Husband, these people are not targeting me, they are targeting Lulu. They don't care what happens to me. Originally, they didn't intend to arrest me. I wanted to chase him life and death, so they arrested me together." Qian Yuman thought about it now. Fortunately, she came with her. Otherwise, how could Tang Yuj and the others find them so quickly? End of this chapter. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Dalby in the World. Chapter 1512. Chapter 1512 The Coming of Death 3. Qian Yuman thought about it now. Fortunately, she came with her. Otherwise, how could Tang Yuj and the others find them so quickly? "Don't worry, Lulu will be fine, lucky people have their own destiny. But I'm so worried. My heart has been beating uneasily, and I feel like something will happen. With his hands and feet untied, Jian Yuman pulled Tang Yuj out. Let's go out and look for it too. Okay. But you have to pay attention to your safety. If something happens, remember to hide behind me. Okay, Jian Yuman nodded repeatedly. The most important thing now is to find Yang Yanliu. These people brought by Tang Yuj were all professionals. They started a carpet search, and based on some traces of their passage, they found their way to the place where Yang Yanliu disappeared. Tang Xingai's face became increasingly uglier, so dark that the ink was almost squeezed out, and he looked a little scary. Jian Yuman looked at Tang Xingai's stinky face, and she was really a little scared. She didn't expect that the boy who had a pair of cute tiger teeth when he smiled would actually have an icy aura that scared her. Since the incident happened with Jian Yuman, Tang Xingai looked even more ugly towards Jian Yuman. If not because Tang Yuj was by her side, she seriously doubted that he would rush over and scold her. She also blamed herself and did not bother him, but followed the large army to search for him. As time passed by, Tang Yuj became more and more anxious and couldn't find him no matter what. There have been no traces of people around for a long time, and all traces only reach halfway up the mountain. Tang Yuj looked at the situation around him and listened to the reports from his subordinates. His face darkened. It is impossible for people to disappear. Send more manpower to continue to expand the search. Tang Xingai looked around, searching, and his eyes suddenly fell on the flat ground not far away. Is it his imagination? Why did he feel like there was someone calling him from underneath the ground? That voice sounds like Luer's. Could it be that? Tang Xingai stared at the ground, staring deeply. Jian Yuman, who had been secretly observing Tang Xingai, pulled on Tang Yuj's clothes. Look what your brother is doing. Why he keeps staring at the ground? Is he crazy because he can't find anyone? Tang Yuj glanced at his younger brother and then at the ground. Look quickly for any traces on the ground to see if anyone is underground. Jian Yuman took a breath of cold air. Underground? Will Lulu be buried alive? Tang Xingai had already rushed to the same place and started digging with his bare hands. Jian Yuman also ran over to help, but Tang Yuj pulled him aside and stuffed a stone into his hand. Don't get hurt. Tang Xingai dug at the soil without saying a word. His hands were bleeding and he was still digging. Tang Yuj's men found a shovel, but Tang Xingai snatched it away and started digging quickly. The soil was being turned up constantly, and everyone around became nervous. So much time has passed. If the person is really down there, it is 80% likely to be in danger. Jian Yuman instead hoped that there would be no willows down there. I am afraid that he died of lack of oxygen not long after he was buried alive. As the soil was dug deeper and deeper, the shovel finally hit the obstruction. It's a coffin, Jian Yuman exclaimed. It's so accurate. Where Tang Xingai dug, something was really dug out. Was Yang Yanliu inside? When something was dug, people digging around also rushed over to help. With the strength of the crowd, it didn't take long for the coffins to be dug out. But when the coffins were opened and Yang Yanliu was seen lying in the coffin with a pale face, the air was instantly frozen. As I write this paragraph, my timid majesty is so frightened that he closes the curtains, turns his back to the window, and reads silently. Amitabha. Gone. I'm so worried about you. I'm so anxious for you. Disdainful. Snored. Your Majesty will not continue writing a new book. What can you do to me? In the middle of the night? Your Majesty actually wants to sleep. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Daobi in the World. Chapter 1513. Chapter 1513 The Coming of Death 4. When something was dug, people digging around also rushed over to help. With the strength of the crowd, it didn't take long for the coffins to be dug out. But when the coffins were opened and Yang Yanliu was seen lying in the coffin with a pale face, the air was instantly frozen. Yang Yanliu lay quietly in the coffin, her eyes closed tightly, her face as pale as snow in winter, and traces of pain still remained on her face. She knew that there was no ups and downs in her chest. Even without touching it, they could tell that Yang Yanliu was no longer breathing. Qian Yuman was shaking all over, tears streaming down her face. Tang Yuj covered her eyes to prevent her from continuing to see such a cruel scene. They didn't want to see Yang Yanliu suffer misfortune, and he didn't want his beloved woman to see Yang Yanliu's misfortune. Is it still too late? Tang Xingai climbed into the coffin, gently supported Yang Yanliu, and looked at her quiet and gentle face. His heart, which had been calm for a long time, felt a sharp stabbing pain. It hurt so much that he couldn't breathe, and it was so painful that he might faint at any time. Scenes from the past kept appearing in front of me, every moment they got along, the scene when they first met. He still remembered that he had just entered the first year of high school. As a freshman, he was sitting in the assembly hall and saw her giving a speech on behalf of the freshmen. Gentle smile, pleasant voice, and speech about new life. At first sight, he fell in love with this girl and couldn't stop falling in love with her. Like a little fanboy, he sat down stupidly and stared at her. He thought to himself, why would there be such a beautiful girl in this world? He must take her home to be his wife. Later, he found out that they were assigned to the same class. He happily cheered in the class regardless of his image. Later, the school reselected the school beauties, and they were both selected at the same time, becoming the new generation of school beauties. He was very happy and took the initiative to strike up a conversation with her and talk to her. She ignored him at first, thinking that he didn't study well and disturbed her study all day long, thinking that he was a bad student. Later on, he shamelessly pestered her and asked her to help with tutoring. However, he was not interested in drinking. How could he learn it? Every time he listened to her talk, he would stare at her in a daze. Just staring at her, her face turned red, and he didn't even notice when her feet were kicked by her. When they were together, everything was so magical and natural. He confessed and she agreed. What's sad is that his academic performance has not improved at all, which makes her a little frustrated, and she is more dedicated to teaching him to study. It was not until later that teacher Qian was threatened by him and became his private tutor that he could study hard. But she thought it was her fault and smiled like a flower for it. He was very happy and liked her smile very much. That was his favorite smile when he was young, the most nostalgic and the most missed smile. He thought they would always be so happy, but no matter how beautiful love is, it will always be defeated by reality. They secretly tasted the forbidden fruit, causing her to become pregnant. When her family found out, they thought they would get married, but what happened was that she took money from her mother just to give birth to the child and live a good life before taking it away. He began to change, and he no longer loved to laugh. He hated her cruelty, hated why she aborted their child, and even more hated why she left him. He doesn't mind that she is with him for money, and he doesn't mind that her purpose is not pure. He is just afraid of her leaving. That's right, this point is still being updated. Isn't it very touching? Woohoo, will your majesty grow old? Stay up late every day. It's really hard to double open. End of this chapter. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Daobi in the World. Chapter 1514. Chapter 1514 The Coming of Death 5. He doesn't mind that she is with him for money, and he doesn't mind that her purpose is not pure. He is just afraid of her leaving. How deeply you love, so deeply you hate. His change stemmed from her, but also from his own inability to overcome the hurdles in his heart. Finally, she returned to herself and brought her son back. On the surface, his attitude towards her was still very bad, but in fact, in the dead of night, he would hold her tenderly in his arms, enjoying the time when she was by his side. "Luer, do you know that I can't live without you for a long time? 3 years without you, I lived like a zombie. Losing you again, you asked me how to live strong and how to watch my children grow up. Why are you so cruel?" Tears slipped quietly from his eyes and fell on the body that was still warm in his arms. Tang Xingai was completely immersed in past memories, holding the person in his arms tightly, fearing that if he let go of her, she would cease to exist. The atmosphere around was depressing and everyone was sad. Tang Xingai suddenly paused, pushed Yang Yanliu away, held her head, his eyes widened, and stared at her without blinking. He placed his fingers on her neck, feeling the almost imperceptible beating between his fingers. The beating is very weak, almost to none. But no matter how weak it is still jumping. "Luer, you're still alive, aren't you?" Tang Xingai shouted excitedly, not daring to shake her body for fear of breaking it. Until he felt the beating again, he could no longer suppress the ecstasy in his heart and shouted at Tang Yuj. "Brother, Luer still has a pulse, she is still alive." Qian Yuman, who was lying in Tang Yuj's arms and crying, suddenly turned back to look at Tang Xingai's happy expression. "Alive, really? Come on, come and save me." Qian Yuman was ecstatic, no less happy than Tang Xingai, and excitedly beat Tang Yuj several times. Tang Yuj's face finally relaxed, and he gently hugged the extremely excited Qian Yuman. "Don't worry, I brought a doctor with me this time, Lulu will be fine." Thanks to Tang Yuj's preparation, 2 doctors were already found to follow him before sending anyone. He doesn't want anything to happen to Qian Yuman, but he will think of all possibilities to minimize the damage. With these doctors, not only can Qian Yuman be kept safe, but also the subordinates around him can receive timely treatment. After a while of rescue, Yang Yanliu still had a very weak pulse, and everyone was happy to help her, and her breathing gradually recovered. The person was then sent to the hospital for more formal treatment. Tang Yuj has a group of doctors, all of whom are top-notch doctors in the country. As long as Yang Yanliu is still breathing, they can save her. The rescue did not last long. She was in a state of suspended animation mainly due to lack of oxygen. Fortunately, Tang Xingai found her in time. If he had been a few minutes later, she would have had no pulse at all. No matter how powerful the medical skills are, they can't save Yang Yanliu from death. Also, everything was in time. Fortunately, everything did not come to the worst. Yang Yanliu survived, everything was a false alarm. Tang Xingai experienced the pain of losing Yang Yanliu, and having her again made his mentality change a lot after being pushed out from the operating room. He had been by her bedside, looking at her, looking forward to her waking up. "The first person I saw after that was her, Tang Xingai. Not dead. Not dead. Were you shocked? Wakakaka. Your Majesty, keep writing." End of this chapter. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Daobi in the World. Chapter 1515. Chapter 1515 Investigating the Murderer 1. Tang Xingai experienced the pain of losing Yang Yanliu, and having her again made his mentality change a lot after being pushed out from the operating room. He had been by her bedside, looking at her, looking forward to her waking up. "The first person I saw after that was her, Tang Xingai." Qian Yuman and the others did not stay to disturb their rare good time, although Yang Yanliu was still unconscious. They still have a lot to do. Qian Yuman has 3 children to take care of, including Tang Xingai's son. Tang Yuj needed to quickly investigate who wanted Yang Yanliu dead. What kind of hatred does one have to do such a cruel thing like burying her alive? Being buried alive will not cause her to die immediately. Instead, she will be constantly deprived of oxygen, unable to breathe, and slowly wait for death. It is very painful, thousands of times more painful than being killed by a sudden shot. They dare not think how desperate Yang Yanliu was when she was in the coffin, waiting for death to get closer. Constantly hoping that someone is saving her, constantly waiting for the arrival of death. In despair, slowly losing breath and falling into darkness. The investigation of the murderer is not difficult. At Tang Yu's level, it is not difficult to find out who is most active on that mountain. Coupled with the appearance of the man in black drawn by Qian Yuman, several prisoners on the run were quickly identified. These people are all evil and have done a lot of bad things. Following these clues, we pursued all the way up and finally caught the culprit. Tang Yuj personally escorted the person to the hospital and brought him to Tang Xingai. "Brother, I brought the murderer." Tang Xingai, who was quietly waiting for Yang Yanliu to wake up, had red eyes and had not slept all night. His eyes fell on the woman who was lying on the ground, shaking and looking at him in horror. Woman. He knew this woman. Is his college classmate, one of his admirers, and the one who pursues him the most. Numerous encounters with him did not bring any frustration to her. Instead, she became more and more courageous with each setback. Later she found out that he was married and the wedding was about to take place, so she ran up to him and made a fuss. From then on, this person never appeared in front of him again. Unexpectedly, when he appeared again, he actually appeared in front of him as the murderer of Yang Yanliu. "Zhu Qing, who gave you the courage to hurt my wife?" Tang Xingai rushed over, grabbed Zhu Qing's neck, and pressed him against the wall. He also wanted her to feel the pain of not being able to breathe. Luer was like this at that time, unable to breathe, and kept waiting for death, which was even longer than strangling her to death. Zhu Qing's eyes were filled with fear and confusion, and she slapped Tang Xingai's hand hard. Her breathing became thinner and thinner, and the lack of air made her face redder and redder. Seeing that Zhu Qing was really about to be strangled to death by his younger brother, Tang Yuj gently patted him on the shoulder. "Don't kill people in the sister-in-law's ward. This woman, no matter what, must be handed over to Lulu. Killing Zhu Qing is easy, and they can afford the consequences, but killing her is not the best way." What's more, the victim was still unconscious. When she woke up, she realized that her husband had killed a woman who loved him for her. With Yang Yanliu's character, he must be very accepting. Yang Yanliu is not a strong character, she is very kind, and she definitely does not want the ending to be that Zhu Qing is strangled to death by Tang Xingai. Tang Yu's words made Tang Xingai, who was instantly furious, gradually return to his senses. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Daobi in the World. Chapter 1516. Chapter 1516 Investigating the Murderer 2. He let go of his hand, and Zhu Qing fell to the ground, gasping for breath. That face that was pretty good was filled with the pain of the rest of his life, and his face was pale and pitiful. Until he had investigated clearly, these people were sent by Zhu Qing. He would never have imagined that this woman could be so vicious-hearted. Zhu Qing. Zhu Qing was shocked and pressed against the wall in fear. "Xingai, what are you doing? Why did you arrest me? Did I do something wrong?" Tang Xingai sneered and looked down at her. "You have the nerve to ask me why I did this. A vicious woman like you, have done so many bad things that you have forgotten how many bad things you have done. Look at my woman, she is still unconscious after being harmed by you." Tang Xingai pointed to Yang Yanliu, who was lying quietly on the hospital bed with a pale face. Zhu Qing's eyes fell on Yang Yanliu's face, with a look of horror on his face, then he quickly shook his head and explained anxiously. "Xingai, I didn't do it. I didn't hurt your wife. Zhu Qing refused to admit that she had killed someone. There was a moment of guilt in her eyes, and more of a daze. Didn't you do it? Yes. You didn't want to hurt my wife, you wanted to kill her. If I hadn't saved her in time, her body would be lying here now. Tang Xingai roared violently, wishing to kill Zhu Qing had to be beaten to death to eliminate the hatred in his heart. Zhu Qing looked at the man she had admired for 2 or 3 years. He always had a cold face and refused to let others go. No matter how close she came or what she did, his face remained cold and unwavering. Shock. I didn't expect to see such an angry expression on his face today, and he even wanted to strangle her to death with his own hands. Zhu Qing crawled over on his knees and grabbed Tang Xingai's trousers. Xingai, it really wasn't me, it wasn't me. You're still lying. Tang Xingai raised his foot and kicked her chest mercilessly. My investigation has made it very clear that the murderer is you, a disgusting woman. Look at the evidence, what else do you have to argue with? Tang Xingai dumped the information Tang Yuj investigated on Zhu Qing. Zhu Qing tremblingly picked up the information, and the blood on his face disappeared. Xingai, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. I don't know what happened. I clearly didn't want to kill your wife, I just sent someone to teach her a lesson. Ha ha ha. I admit it, it was you who did it. Tang Xingai sneered, and the more he looked at this woman, the more disgusted he became. Zhu Qing shook his head in panic and explained anxiously. What I said is true. I just wanted to send someone to teach her a lesson. I didn't want to kill her. You have to believe me, what I said is true. Do you think I will believe you? Didn't you admit what you did just now? Now that there is evidence, are you still denying what you did? You think I am a fool. You think that if you talk about your sins lightly, we will let you go. Use the rest of your life to bear the charge of attempted murder. Tang Xingai turned around coldly and stopped looking at her. When he faced Yang Yanliu again, the expression on his face was a little gentler. Zhu Qing was completely panicked now. He wanted to explain and continue to quibble, but was dragged out by Tang Yuz's men. He was still shouting before being handed over to the police. Xingai, you have to believe me, I didn't want to kill your wife, I didn't. Please let me go, I don't want to go to jail, I was wronged. End of this chapter. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Daobi in the World. Chapter 1517. Chapter 1517. Do you forgive me? Tang Yuj took Zhu Qing away and did not stay to disturb the relationship between Tang Xingai and Yang Yanliu. The ward became quiet again, leaving him and Yang Yanliu, who was still in a coma. Luer, when will you wake up? He hasn't seen her open her eyes or heard her speak yet, and his heart is still hanging on. Perhaps hearing Tang Xingai's call, Yang Yanliu slowly opened his eyes on the bed and looked around confusedly. The moment she opened her eyes, Tang Xingai stood up excitedly and stared at her closely. Luer. Hearing someone calling her, she slowly turned her head. When she saw clearly that it was Tang Xingai, a vague smile appeared at the corner of her mouth. It's great to see you again after death. A simple sentence, but it contains so much. Tang Xingai couldn't make a sound for a while, so he excitedly took her into his arms and hugged her tightly. You're not dead. Not dead? Yang Yanliu was dazed for a while, feeling the warmth and even breathing of the person hugging her. Gradually, her mind became clearer, and she was no longer as confused as when she first woke up. She pushed him away gently, carefully reached out her hand, touched his face gently, felt the temperature of her fingertips, and smiled happily again. I'm not dead, I'm really not dead. Yes, you are not dead, we saved you. That's great. Yang Yanliu burst into tears of joy and happily threw herself into his arms. I thought I was dead. I thought I would never be able to have you in my life. Do you know how desperate I was at that time? I thought that I might never be able to hold you like this again. I was willing to do it. I was afraid that I can't die in peace. Tang Xingai sighed deeply. Speaking of death and bad luck, you have to think about it now. Although he had experienced life and death, the change in his personality made it impossible for him to say too many words of comfort for a while. He could only express his thoughts with a tight hug. Yang Yanliu nodded wildly and said with a happy smile. Yeah, it's all over. She should stop thinking so much, cherish this feeling, and think back to what was going on in her mind when she was dying. This time, she will hold on to him firmly and give each other a chance. Xingai, are you willing to hear the reason why I left you? She hesitated to speak about this matter. The first is fear, and the second is knowing that it may not be useful if we say it, and it may cause secondary harm to each other. But it's different now. She has been through for a while, and those fears and worries are not important. She just wants to have no barriers or secrets between them, and she wants to tell him everything honestly. Tang Xingai was obviously a little resistant, but looking at Yang Yanliu's eager eyes, he nodded slowly. Say it. Yang Yanliu slowly finished telling what had happened, a little cautiously while speaking, and kept observing Tang Xingai's reaction. However, Tang Xingai's reaction was no reaction, his face didn't change much, and he looked at him indifferently. I'm done. Yang Yanliu stared at Tang Xingai like a good child, waiting for him to get angry or scold her. I understand, Tang Xingai replied calmly. Stand up gently. You just woke up, you'd better get some rest and sleep for a while I go out for a while. Yeah, Yang Yanliu nodded obediently, looked at him, and grabbed his hand. When I wake up, will you still be by my side? Meeting. After receiving Tang Xingai's answer, Yang Yanliu felt a little more at ease. But she still couldn't see his emotions from his cold expression. Everybody, go to sleep. End of this chapter. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Daobi in the World. Chapter 1518. Chapter 1518. Marry Me. After receiving Tang Xingai's answer, Yang Yanliu felt a little more at ease. But she still couldn't see his emotions from his cold expression. Tang Xingai did not leave immediately, but waited until Yang Yanliu fell asleep before leaving the ward, leaving the nanny to take care of Yang Yanliu. Luer, I'm sorry, I need some time to digest. I don't know how to get along with you. The moment he knew the truth, his heart became confused. What his mother did back then was getting more and more cruel than he imagined. This was all her plan to get Luer to leave him. Her plan succeeded, but it also caused a huge gap in their relationship. After being separated for so many years, it also changed the trajectory of his life and his personality changed drastically. All of these. He needs some time to digest. Luer, give me some time, I will definitely sort out my emotions. Since Yang Yanliu was kidnapped, their relationship has not warmed up quickly, and it is much better than before. Everything seemed to be calm. Because of the kidnapping, Tang Yuj arranged a bunch of bodyguards for Qian Yuman to protect him. She doesn't go out during this period, she just stays at home caring for her husband and raising children. On this day, Qian Yuman sent her child to live with Grandma Tang, and went on a trip with Tang Yuj. They arrived at Tang Yuj's resort, which was located along the coast. The scenery was particularly beautiful. When Qian Yuman arrived, she had the idea of retiring here. They sat on the beach, enjoying the sea breeze, resting their heads on Tang Yuj's shoulders, looking at the bright moon on the sea, and enjoying the faint sweetness of the moment. Husband, let's stay here for a while. Okay. So happy. Qian Yuman closed her eyes happily and nestled into Tang Yuj's arms. Looking down at Qian Yuman's red lips, Tang Yuj smiled fondly and kissed her red lips. The kiss became more and more passionate, until Tang Yuj could no longer control his desire and pressed her directly on the beach, then stopped. Roar, Jian-Yuman patted his shoulder coquettishly, turned over and pressed Tanyuj under her. What, do you want to have with me? You're a little pervert, you're a mother of two, and you're still so perverted. Tanyuj looked helplessly at the woman riding on him. Jian-Yuman pouted and patted his chest. Obviously I like it very much, but I'm still pretending to be reserved. Why? Wife. Why? Tanyuj's lips curled up. Just when Jian-Yuman thought he was going to push her down on the beach and do bad things, Tanyuj stretched out his hand and snapped his fingers loudly. Suddenly, the surroundings became brighter, and a large area of the beach was shimmering with lights, covering the entire beach. The trees on the beach also emit a faint fluorescent light, and fireflies are flying all over the sky, instantly lighting up the entire night sky. The surroundings suddenly became very beautiful. Under the bright moonlight, the environment was suddenly changed. The sea breeze blew her hair, which made her more beautiful and charming under the moonlight, as beautiful as a fairy in the sky. She opened her small mouth and looked at the changes in the surrounding environment in surprise. It wasn't over yet. Not far away, suddenly the eyes were dazzled, and three words appeared: marry me. Tears instantly appeared in her eyes, and she understood what was happening at this moment. All of this was a surprise brought to her by Tanyuj, a sudden proposal scene, and the person to propose to was right in front of her. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Daobi in the World. Chapter 1519. Chapter 1519 Sweet Vow. Tanyuj looked at her cheerful and happy look and took out a ring, the one she gave her back then. That ring Jian-Yuman kept with her all those years ago, but later accidentally lost it, and unexpectedly returned to Tanyuj's hands. He held the ring, lay on the beach, and raised the ring to her. Jian-er, marry me. Jian-Yuman looked at the man below her stupidly, burst into laughter, happily threw herself at Tanyuj, and answered with a smile. Okay, I want to marry you and become your Tanyuj's wife. So happy, she didn't expect that Tanyuj would give her such a big surprise and such a beautiful proposal. It came so suddenly and so wonderfully. No wonder he kept pestering her about going on a trip during this period, and it turned out that he had this idea. However, she likes it very much. The faint happiness suddenly turned into a feeling of happiness that was so strong that it was almost full. How lucky she was to meet him in this life. The fireworks have dissipated, but fireflies flying in the sky and shell lanterns on the beach still dot the land. Lying on Jian-Yuman's finger that Tanyuj stretched out, Tanyuj had already put on that ring. The ring on Tanyuj's hand was the same one that Jian-Yuman put on her personally. Jian-Yuman closed her eyes and lay in his arms. There is no excess lust, only full happiness, and a sense of happiness that wants to tell the whole world that she is so happy. Jian-Yuman changed her position, lying on her side in his arms, hugging his waist, and resting her face in his arms. Tanyuj had a doting smile on his lips and kissed her forehead gently. I love you, my wife. Husband, I love you too. I'm very happy. I'm so happy too. Thank you for appearing in my life and lighting up my world. She could never understand how important she was to him. When he was young, it was with her presence that he felt that the Wang family could live. That period of gloomy life became happy because of her presence. When he grew up, her presence made him happy. Before meeting her, he thought that people only lived to suffer. Before meeting him again, he thought that life and death didn't matter, and that a dry life was so boring. Her appearance made his world colorful. Know what it's like to be happy, know what it's like to love someone. It was she who made him understand what love is. Honey, let's hold a wedding after we go back. The smile on Qian Yuman's face grew bigger and bigger, and she nodded wildly happily. Okay, I'll listen to you in everything. In fact, since her last proposal and knowing that they were not divorced at all, she had thought about their wedding. But he didn't mention it. She also thought that they were an old couple and the wedding was no longer that important. But what woman doesn't look forward to having an unforgettable wedding in her life? I want to tell everyone that you, Qian Yuman, are my wife. I want to give you a romantic wedding that will make you reluctant to leave me for the rest of your life. I want you to live happily every day, remove all obstacles of love rivals, and only see me. I want you to grow old together with me, watch our children grow up, get married and have children together. Okay, I will listen to my husband in everything. At this moment, Qian Yuman was just a woman, listening to Tangyuj rarely say a bunch of gentle words and sweet vows. Then that's what we've settled on. Good. End of this chapter. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Daobi in the World. Chapter 1520. Chapter 1520 Another baby. Qian Yuman is happy now. Even if Tangyuj says to run away naked, she will happily agree. Qian, tell me you love me. I love you the most, my sugar baby. Tell me more. Only love sugar babies. Do it again. Without the sugar baby, I would not be able to breathe with the sugar baby, my breath is sweet. I want to call you husband. Why, after we get back together, you won't let me call you sugar baby, then I'll call you Tanghulu, little Tang Tang, my favorite sugar baby. Naughty. Then do you want to have another baby with little Naughty? Good. Tangyuj smiled, picked up Qian Yuman on the beach, and walked quickly towards the villa. What does it mean to do what you say is done? This is about their loving couple. For a long time, Qian Yuman and Tangyuj stayed at the resort and lived a happy and sweet life. They didn't want to go back. One day after they lived for a month, a nasty guy came to their door. Mommy. Little Mickey kicked open the door and happened to see two people fighting and having fun on the bed. Qian Yuman wasn't even wearing clothes, and her son used his own tricks to break in. Tangyuj pulled the quilt unhappily and covered Qian Yuman. Even his son didn't want him to see Qian Yuman's naked appearance. Don't you know how to knock before coming in? I knocked on the door, but you didn't open it, little Mickey said angrily. Subsequently, another carrot head appeared behind her, looking at Tangyuj and his wife with a bitter look. Daddy, Mommy, do you want Ruru and brother to go away? After saying this, her eyes were red and she was about to cry at any time. Qian Yuman hid under the quilt in embarrassment and wanted to comfort her daughter, but she had no clothes on. How could it be, Mommy won't let you go? Nonsense, you just don't want me and my brother anymore. We've been out playing for a month and you don't even know how to take us. Ruru pouted her lips, she would shed tears at any time. Tangyuj covered his forehead with a headache, feeling helpless about these little guys. He finally had a clean married life. Who brought these two little guys? Suddenly it occurred to me that their efforts to create humans these days was a wrong choice. There are already two little guys fighting for his wife. If there is another one, will the wife still be his? You guys, get out quickly, I have something to talk with your mommy. Tangyuj calmly ordered the children to go out. He and Qian Yuman were just finishing their visit, but when they came in, they were already unhappy because they were not satisfied with their desires, and they had no intention of leaving yet. Why, Daddy doesn't want Ruru, Ruru cried loudly after saying this. Husband, Qian Yuman slapped Tangyuj angrily, and actually made a bad face to the children. Is there anyone like him who is such a father? Tangyuj pointed to his lower body unhappily. Look. Tisk, Qian Yuman rolled her eyes. She hadn't seen her children for a long time, and she actually missed them very much, but Tangyuj had no intention of leaving. She was living a very happy life, so she didn't mention going back. The child is right in front of me now. It's not that he's not wearing any clothes, he must have flown over. Little Mickey, take Ruru out first, mommy and daddy will go out later. You ran. Sugar baby, wife, let's not have a baby, okay. Xiao Manman. End of this chapter.